Today we're going to talk about the CMS capabilities and feature, how to make the most of them. First, let me share my screen. Hold on. There we go. Okay. So CMS is vast. It's very big within Wix, and it has a lot of capabilities. So we're not going to go over all of them because there are so many, and we're going to need around 8 or 9 hours. So what I did was I cherry picked the very best or the quintessential features that I think would elevate your CMS game within Wix. As I understand, you all know CMS in some sort of form, maybe outside of Wix, maybe even within Wix, and don't know it enough. So we are going to go over it and understand how to bring it to maybe another level. What we will cover in this webinar is how to add CMS to an already designed pages, basically how to convert static pages to dynamic pages. We're going to learn also about how to collect information from site visitors in the CMS using custom forms, customizing layouts for each dynamic page using rich content, and also utilizing a new, fairly recent feature that we have called expressions that I think you're all going to like. How to create smart connections between collections, which is what we call referencing or also multi-referencing. We're going to talk about both of them. How to set up filters for site visitors, which are different from dataset filters. We're going to talk about those as well. And also how to hand over a project to a client and what to make sure that they know when they receive everything from you. So let's move on to a demo first. And we are going to use a Harry Potter themed site for this because Harry Potter is awesome. And this would be the final result. So this would be after you have completed everything. And obviously this was done using Wix Studio. So this site is also responsive. It also responds well to screen size changes. And what we have here in this homepage, for example, is what we started off is with a character of the month, which in this case would be Harry Potter himself for the purpose of this video right now. And we also have 3 testimonials here, which we're going to learn about also how to feature a character of the month, for example, and how to utilize testimonials using a custom form while you collect these testimonials from site visitors and how to display them within this site. And we will see once we click the click to vote. And we also have a layout here of the houses of Harry Potter, which is also, they all have their individual pages as well. So if we click the click to vote, we can see a custom form that we have here. And if we scroll up, the page itself contains characters from the Harry Potter universe, obviously. And we also have filters up top. So these are the filters that we're going to talk about as well for visitors. So they can filter by house or by book. They can also reset them. We're going to learn how to do that as well. And once you click on a specific character, let's take Voldemort for a second. And you can see that they have their own page with their own extended information, a relation to where they come from or in which house they are in, which is something that we do with referencing. We'll see that as well. A quote, that is something that I've done with something that is called expressions within CMS. We're going to talk about those as well. And this extra information that is unique to each of the items of the collection itself. Okay, so let's begin. So first of all, let's talk about converting to dynamic pages. So dynamic pages within Wix or dynamic content can divide itself in a few places, into a few places. You can either have a dynamic page from scratch, which means that whatever content you put in it afterwards will duplicate itself and it would create different URLs for the different items. You could have a static page that has a dynamic part within it. So for example, like an about page, and you have a page itself that it's completely static. It has one URL, but then there is a repeater inside that is connected to CMS, and that content changes dynamically, which doesn't involve anything regarding URLs. And also there is a possibility to convert a static page to a dynamic page. And when would we do that? Usually it's when you already have one page designed in your site that you would prefer for it to be the new template for the dynamic content that you would want to create. And you would say, okay, I've designed something and this would be a perfect template. Let's just convert that into a dynamic page. And then whatever content will be injected into that will be displayed and over several item pages and over several dynamic URLs that will be created and populated due to that. So that's what we're going to do currently. So if we go to our site, this is a site that is half finished, so we can complete it together. So for example, we have the character page that we saw earlier with Voldemort, for example, but as you can see, it's blank, it's empty, because this would be a potential template. So how would we achieve the dynamic part in this? Because currently it is under the static pages, just the regular main pages of your site. What we would do in this occasion would be to click here in the more actions into that of that page, and we would click convert to dynamic page. And once we do that, it's going to give us an option to the right, and we can click and choose either a new collection, or if we already have an existing collection, we can connect this template to that existing collection. So let's choose that because we already have a characters collection. It's right here. And we're going to click next. And let's just give the system a second to convert it. And basically what it's doing is it's taking the static page and making it dynamic. So it's connecting it to the collection backstage in a way that when we do choose the different items, like you can see, we have this dynamic page drop down that has been added here. And this is how we can travel between the different items in the collection. And these are all basically unique URLs within the collection itself. But as you can see, the page itself is dynamic, as it says as well, but I don't see any dynamic content. I just see the division. So the reason is once the page was converted to being dynamic, now we need to actually connect the placeholders or the elements that we have on the page to the collection itself. So let's do that. So if we click on the image and we click connect to CMS, we're going to have the side panel on the side. It's already connected to the relevant collection because we did define that firstly, but we need to connect the actual element to the character image. So for Alistair Moody, it would be this image right here. And I would do the same for these. Hold on. Let us connect this to the name of the character name. There you go. And let us connect this to the short character description. Okay, so now, for example, I have this content. We're going to leave this part alone because we're going to talk about this when we talk about referencing. That's going to be a little bit later on. But for now, even just having connected that, if we switch over to another character, you would see that the information changes dynamically between the item pages. So each one of them is a unique URL that contains this information. That is what makes it dynamic. Okay, so that is basically how to convert a static page to a dynamic page. If you already want to utilize something that you already have built. Let's talk about custom forms. That is really important because many times site builders, site owners would want to have a form of communicating with site visitors. And we do have the built-in products for that. We do have Wix Forms, for example, but it comes as its own product, and changing it and making it versatile is a bit more limited. So what you would want to do is you can create your own form using input elements. So if, for example, we go to the characters page and we scroll down like we saw where this form exists. Basically, if you click on it, you're going to see that it's not its own form. It's made up of different input elements, and each one of them is connected. So this one, for example, is connected to the title because I want to collect the name of the person who is submitting this to my collection of the relevant collection that I've had for the feedback form. And they can choose their own character, the favorite character. That's how we create the testimonials. And why? Let's just connect this. It is already connected to the correct data set, but let us connect this to the specific field within the collection. And let's see that the submit button is already, yes, it's already set to submit, meaning once everything is connected to the same data set, everything is relevant to that same data set. And then once I click submit, everything gets sent back to that collection. So for example, if I go to, let's publish these changes. And great, let's refresh this page. Let's go to the site. So for example, if I write for the name, I would say webinar, and I would choose Albus Dumbledore because he's the most powerful one. And I would submit. Great. Now let's go back to the collection itself. And we can see that here through the CMS panel. We can go to the feedback form collection that we have associated with this custom form. And we can see that, yep, there it is. That is what we have acquired from the form on the site itself. So this is how you would utilize forms, and you can create them with so many different input elements. You have drop downs. You have, I'm going to show it to you over here. You have, for example, text inputs. You have date and time picker. You have signature. You can actually collect signatures as well. Drop downs, radio buttons, check boxes. So many things you can utilize. So this is virtually endless. Upload buttons. You can utilize it in so many ways. So this would be a good way to collect information. And afterwards, you can also display it. I'm going to show it to you as well. This is what we do with the data sets themselves. So now that we have created the item page as well for the characters, let us connect this static repeater. It's just a repeater, a static repeater within a static page. And I'm going to turn it dynamic by connecting it to CMS. So it displays everything correctly. It is connected to CMS, but it's not linking to the item page. And I want this to be circular. The whole point of CMS when using referencing and multi-referencing is to utilize as much as possible a circular navigation. So it becomes way more dynamic for site visitors to click whatever they want and keep moving forward, not needing to always go back to a previous page, for example. So I will connect this link to the characters item page. Hold on, there you go, character item. And let's check it out within the preview. So load and hold on. Yes, let us reconnect everything and make sure that it's connected to the right place. There you go. That's fine. That's okay. Let's publish it and see it live. Wait, hold on. Let me just check that everything is connected properly. The image is connected to the image part of the collection. We see that the name is connected as well. Yes, the house is connected as well. Short description as well. Sorry guys, technical difficulty here. There we go. And once it's connected properly, we can see that clicking within the repeater on one of the characters would lead you to the actual item page, which wasn't available before because we didn't have the dynamic pages for the items available. They didn't exist before. So this is how it's done. Let us move on to the next one, which is rich content. Now, rich content is very important. It's very useful when you know how to utilize it. Basically, what it means is whatever content you inject into a dynamic page, because it is designed to be a template, would be replicated over all of these pages. So if you put a text element over here, it's going to replicate itself over everything else. All of the other items in the collection would also receive this text box, whether it has any content connected to it or not. So if you want to get anything that is more unique or specified to an item page, to a specific item in the collection, we would use rich content. So rich content is its own kind of like mini builder, which we're going to see right now. It's actually right over here. Okay, so how do you get to this little element over here, the rich content? It has its own place. When you go to, for example, when you use CMS, you can see that you have an add content element. You can click that, and then you have rich content. Okay, so this is specifically something that only works with CMS. It doesn't work with anything else, and it connects to one specific field in the collection called rich content, and that's it. So what it is basically is if we go, for example, to the collection itself of characters, and we will open it up and see how it goes. we will see that there is a long character description that is under the field type of rich content. And this is the name that we've given it. And once you click within it, basically you will see like a mini editor, which lets you add and design elements, text. You can also input images, videos. You can input Wix products from stores, for example, bookings. It's integral. And we also have integrated HTML code, so you can embed HTML as well. So there's so many things that you can do with this, and this is specific to each item in the collection itself. So for example, Sybil Trelawney has her own description over here, but if you go to Mr. Voldemort over here, he has his own information, including a GIF inside. So that means that if we connect this properly to the characters item, and then we go and connect it to the rich content field type, basically what we're going to see is we're going to see the information that we've seen earlier in the editor populate within the actual site, within the editor itself. So if I go to Luna Lovegood, for example, we can see her specific information. We can do the same for, we have seen currently Voldemort also as well. You can see his information, and this populates uniquely to each individual item. Now, if you don't have anything for a specific item, if it's empty for a specific item, it's not going to leave any gap. So it's going to give you maximum functionality without leaving a gap if there isn't anything there. So that's how you'd use it. So for example, if we want to add one for Harry Potter, because he doesn't have one, right? If we go to Harry Potter, his one is empty. So I would go to edit content, and it would open up his own item within the collection. And this is the rich content viewer. And let us take this link, for example, and we can add it over here. We can add a video, and this is an embed. So I'm just going to embed the video over here. And pretty much you can, by the way, you can also set this if you are using something with potential spoilers, you can blur it out. So basically a site visitor has to understand that this is a spoiler and choose to click it and not see anything they're not supposed to. And we can save this. And there we go. It's added to the collection. We can leave the collection from backstage, and we should see the movie populate over here, the trailer. So basically, if we go to Harry Potter's item page right now, we are going to see this connected as well. So that is rich content. It's really powerful. It's something that you can use to add unique flavor to your items across the collection. And also there is a new feature, again, relatively new, called expressions. And basically what that is, let's say, for example, that I want to combine a few collection fields in the same element. So I have this one text, this is one text box, and I want to connect it to a few things. I wanted to show, for example, if we go back to the collection, I wanted to show both the character's name, which is one field in the collection, but also I wanted to showcase a famous quote that they've said. Now, the thing is that before we actually came up with this feature, you couldn't do this without using code, because you can't connect any one element to more than one collection field in the back end. So you'd see if I would go here and I would connect it to the character's item, I can't connect it to anything else. It could be either to the character name or to the famous quote, not to both of them. So what we came up with is basically using an expression. So what does expression means? It basically means taking a coded experience or like a coded phrase and using it to showcase a few of these elements together within the same text box. So what does that mean? If I go here and I want to click it, I'm going to bypass all of the fields. I'm going to go down and I see expression over here. I'm going to click expression. We have many. You can view this. We have an article that lists the many possibilities that you can click here to combine these multiple fields from the collection. And if you want, because it's using code-like expressions, you're going to use the field IDs, which if you click here, it's just going to show you everything from your own collection. You don't need to do anything. And when you click, when you type, it's also going to show the For example, the expression itself, for this one, we're going to use concat, which is to combine a few of these text elements within a few of the collection fields within one text element. So we're going to use concat, and then we're going to use parentheses, and we're going to list out what we want to be written over here. So I have this already set up for you. And this is what we're going to see eventually. So I'm using concat to basically fuse a few things together. One of them is the title, which is one of the collection fields that we've seen with the character's name, which is Harry Potter. And then I would use free text, who most famously said, and then I would use the famous quote collection field that you've seen earlier. So basically it creates something that changes between items, which is, for example, Harry Potter, who most famously said, "I'm not worried, Harry, I'm with you." And if we go to Luna Lovegood, for example, it's going to say that Luna Lovegood most famously said, "You're just the same as I am." So it changes according to the collection. And you can utilize this for so many things. You can utilize this, for example, if you have real estate listings and you want to indicate how many days have gone by since a listing has gone online or has gone for a sale, it counts it down. So, or it counts it up. It depends what you want. So you can say, for example, 1 day on the market and then change it to 2 days, et cetera, et cetera. You can use it for inventory. You can really use this for so many things. So this is something that you should definitely check out if you want, because this is going to get that wow factor from your clients when you want to have these little features for them. Let's move on to referencing between collections, which is super important because referencing basically what it means is connecting two collections. So if I want to set a behavior that takes more than one collection into account, we would use this with referencing. And what that means is basically we're using a link to connect between them. If you've used CMS outside of Wix, you've probably seen something similar to this. So basically, we have single referencing and we have multi-referencing. So single referencing basically means that there is a one-way doorway that opens up. That means that if I'm within one collection, like characters, and I'm using single reference, I can only take information from a different collection, but it's not going to show the other way around. That is a single reference. But then there's also a multi-reference like we have over here. So if we check it out in the collection itself, we can open up the characters collection. And the characters collection has the house multi-reference, which if you've seen, there is also a collection named houses, which takes into consideration the 4 houses of Harry Potter. And this would be a multi-reference that we have connected to the houses collection. And then it lists every character and the house they belong to. And if I go to the other collection, this was created automatically for me. Basically the other way around. I have here the multi-reference that is the characters and each character that belongs to the specific house. Now, how do we utilize this, for example? So let's go back here to the Hogwarts houses, and let's connect this to basically not the characters item. What we want to do is we want to add a different data set, and we want this to showcase the houses of Harry Potter. So we're going to add a static data set within this dynamic page so we can work with it. Let's add it here. And once we added it, we can actually connect this one to the house name. And we can connect this item, this image, to the house emblem. But the thing is that if we go across all of the items in the collection, you're going to see that they're all the same, meaning Voldemort was in Gryffindor and Severus Snape was also in Gryffindor, which is false. So basically, we need to do an extra step here. What we have done currently is to connect these elements to a new data set, to a new collection. But what we haven't done, and this is where the multi-referencing comes in, is what we need to do is we need to take this data set that this is connected to. So we can go here and see the actual data set, and we need to filter it. So we go to data set settings and we can add a filter, and the filter itself would be by the characters reference, meaning this is connected to the houses collection because it's supposed to show information from the houses collection, but I want it to be filtered by the connection that collection has to the characters collection. So this is how you would use it. So the character includes the character item. And then when I add the filter, this is when the magic happens. And basically the information changes to showcase every character and the house that it actually belongs to. And this is how you utilize the connection between these collections with multi-referencing. Now we have the same thing, for example, let's make sure that this is also connected to link to the houses item page. So we can have a circular motion. And for example, if we go to the live site, let's reload this. And now we have a circular navigation. So for example, if we go to Luna Lovegood, we can click this to go to the character item page. And now when I'm here, I can also click the Ravenclaw one and go to that specific house item page, which contains information about the house itself. And not only that, but there's also another repeater that I've already added before underneath inside this house's item page. This repeater is connected and filtered in the same exact way, but just in reverse, meaning this repeater is connected to the characters items, but filtered by the houses. And that gives us basically the division of characters within each house. So if, for example, we switch this to, let's say, Slytherin, then we would see, when we scroll down, the characters that are relevant to the Slytherin household. So this is how we would use referencing, in this case, multi-referencing. It's very powerful. It's something that some people get a bit confused with. So this is, I hope, puts it to rest. Let's move on. Let's go to filters. So filters, we have a few types of filters. We have filters for the data set, like we just have seen. This basically what we have done right now is filtering the data set. So the data set could show only specific relevant information and not all the information from the collection. And we also have site visitor filters, which is different because what we do here is basically allow site visitors to use something like a drop down to filter information that they're looking for. So just imagine how you can utilize this and showcase this within a potential site of your own. But for this example, we've seen the filtration by house and by book. So for example, I can see the house one is already set up for me. That's fine. Let's go to filter by book. So once I click on the drop down, I need to filter content, not collect, because collect is only to collect to a collection, like for a site form, which is not what we need right now. So we want to filter the content, and we want to filter through the characters data set, which contains the tags that we've seen with each relevant book. And we can add it right here. Now it's creating this long name over here, and I want to change that. Sorry, I did not mean to do that. I want to do the settings. And once I click that, I can just get rid of all of this and just say, for example, filter by book. Let's do it over here as well. There we go. It looks way neater. And now this is also connected to the book lists. And the last thing we want to do is to connect this reset button. So the reason I added this is because in this case, we only have 2 drop downs. And once we start choosing within them, we can see all the information that is relevant only to these 2 drop downs. So for example, I want to see only the Hufflepuff characters that appear in the Chamber of Secrets. And that would give me none, because there were none that were there in this collections in the way that it was set up. So now if you want to reset it, basically you would need to go up and click the all button to present all of the choices for that specific filter. Now for this reason, in this occasion, we only have 2 filters, which is fine, but sometimes it would have 4 or 5 or 7. So instead of doing all this or maybe refreshing the page, it would be nice to just have a reset button to help you with that. So basically what we do is we have just a regular button, and it's going to be connected to the same data set that the rest of the filters were connected as well. And the action itself, what I want to do is to reset input values. And it's as simple as that. Now, if I go to the preview and I choose, for example, Slytherin and Deathly Hollows, and I want to reset it, I just click reset and boom, that's what it does. It just takes everything back to the all. So this is something that is applicable with everything. Anything that you can use to filter, which would be selection tags or drop downs, would be perfect here. And this is how you allow site visitors to filter whatever they need from you within the site. Let's also showcase one more thing, which is filtration within a collection itself. So what does that mean? So if I go to the collection of, for example, characters, I would see that I have a specific field called feature character. Now, this is a Boolean type. And what does that mean? What does Boolean mean? It's basically a yes or no checkmark operation. So it's basically a true or false. This is if you would embody this in code, it would be either a true or false. So how we display this here within CMS is basically using a check mark. Now, this is the way we can control, for example, the character of the month, right? Because if we go, for example, to the homepage, and let's say that currently it's a new month and we want to display a different character of the month. We don't want Harry Potter anymore. What we can do is we can go to the collection and we can go to that Boolean field type and we can switch it out. Let's say I don't want this and I want Luna Lovegood to be the character of the month. And once I go back to the home page, it's just changed. And the testimonials, I'll show you this in a minute as well. These would also be connected to the same one. Now, how is this done? How does the system know that I'm choosing this specific character as the character of the month? Basically, once we connect it to the data set, we can also filter the data set just like we've seen before with that same Boolean. We can actually say, okay, let's go to the featured character, which is the Boolean field, and then we can just say, is it true or false? So basically, this is true. We want the one that is only the ones that showcase true, which is only one character, and this is how it's presenting only Luna Lovegood in this occasion. Now, the testimonials, for example, are exactly the same thing. So, for example, if I see the way they're connected to the feedback form data set, because before we collected it and now we want to display it, so the feedback form data set is connected to the testimonials over here, and it's connected to show the why text, which is what site visitors actually explained as why they chose this character as character of the month. And this is also, if you can see the data set, it's also filtered the same way using the reference to the characters. So that means that only the available testimonials for the characters would show. And I've also set a limitation for this data set to only show 3 items maximum. So even if you have 4, 5, 6 testimonials, it would only show the most recent 3, for example. So if I go back to, let's go to the collection, and I chose Albus Dumbledore, if I'm not mistaken. So let's click on him and make him character of the month. Where is he? There you go. Let's click that and go back. And there we go. Now we can see all of the testimonials that we have and the most recent one that we have created here together. So this is also a good way of controlling filtering within a collection itself. Now, if you want to hand a site over to clients, basically, you have a few things that you can utilize to help organize everything. So first of all, if we go to the actual CMS dashboard, you would see that you would have folders. You can create as many as you want within the folders. You can name it. You can put specific collections within them. So this would be an organizational thing. So if you were to manage a site, for example, and the client that you actually transfer the ownership to just wants to be the owner of the site because they want to operate it, but they want you to keep everything intact in the back end. You can create, for example, folders and say, do not change, do not touch, to review for later on. This is something that you can also use with collaborators on a site. So basically they would have a place to go to find whatever they need. Now, besides that, you also have within a collection itself, you have behaviors that you can limit or tell a user or a client to basically what their range is within a collection. So if you don't want them to make any changes that you don't want, you can, for example, go to edit, and you can go to validations, and you can say, okay, I want this to be a required field. So if I click this, if I toggle this on, it means that I have to have this filled out for in the collection itself. Otherwise, it won't let me continue. And also I can limit the character count. So let's say that I want to have a minimum of 4 characters. If I need to explain something and you want to limit them, and you would go up until, I don't know, let's say 100, for example, and you would save it. What would happen basically is if you go to the item itself, it would actually say this right there. So if you go to the quote, enter between 4 and 100 characters, it's going to say for the client itself. So they would also know what are the rules according to what is relevant and necessary for this project. So this is one thing that you can do. Now, another thing that you can do is to set visibility. So what you can see here is you have visibility for items. So let's say, for example, that let's go to the feedback form. So feedback form is not something that you control, right? It's because site visitors are the ones that come in and they can type in whatever they want. Sometimes it could be appropriate, sometimes it can be maybe inappropriate. So a way to control that is basically to add visibility to collection items. So we would essentially go to collection settings, and we would control item visibility and the default status. Let's say it's hidden. That means that whatever is already there would be visible, but whatever new item that comes into the collection, whether from the form itself or from the backstage, it would be a default hidden. It's going to be hidden by default, meaning it's not going to show up live on the site. So you can set it to either hidden or visible, or you can also set it to hidden and then schedule it to show in a specific time and date. So for example, I'm going to allow, I don't know, 2 or 3 days to go over the comment and see if the feedback form is actually appropriate or not. So let's give it 2 days by 9 p.m., schedule visible. Then you have this little icon that you can click, and it says this item will show live on September 20th, which is within two days at 9 p.m. locally where you are. So this is something that you can control visibility on. And if you see something that was input by a site visitor and you just don't want to show it, you can click it and delete it, and it's not going to show up at all. Or you can keep it hidden. So that this is also another way you can help a client with managing the content that goes to their site. And one more thing is that if you go to the settings within the dashboard, within the Wix dashboard, you can see that there is an option called roles and permissions. Now, for this example, I am the owner of the site, but what if you finish the site, you want to hand it over, and now you want to change owner and you want to give it to your client? What now? So basically, you have roles that you can allot to yourself or to others that would give you certain permissions over what you can or can't do. If you can, maybe you don't want them to enter the editor because they're not designers, they're not going to know what to do, and you don't want them to mess anything up. So you just want to give them, for example, CMS permission. So they could handle CMS from the dashboard itself, but not go into the editor and actually make any changes. So they can create new items, they can delete new items, they can do whatever they want as far as the content, but they're not going to change anything within the templates themselves or the stylings of the site itself. So this is also something you can utilize when you hand over a site to a client. Let's review, because we've been through quite a lot. So today we learned about converting a static page into a dynamic one, and also the other types of pages that you can have within the dynamic CMS system. The different data sets and how to use them. So whether it's a data set that is set to collect information or to display information, how to collect information from site visitors using custom forms that you create on your own using input elements and connect them all to the same collection. We learned about the advanced functionality of rich content and also expressions and multi-references and the way to utilize them along with filtration and to give you that extra oomph and the extra possibilities to elevate your site, and also how to set up different types of filters. So whether it's a filter for the data set itself, or if it's a filter for site visitors, so when they choose what to see and how to see it, and also how to filter within a collection. So basically you can, for example, change the character of the month with a Boolean field. So that's another way you can use filtration. And we also learned about how to prepare the CMS for a client, whether within the collection and how we can set the behavior of different content or how it's displayed within the collection, or if it's back in the backstage within the settings of the site itself, what roles and permissions we have once we move the site over to the client so they don't mess up the design, for example, and come to us and say, listen, I made this whole mess now, please fix it again. Yeah, great. Thank you so much for being with me for this entire webinar. And I would love to hear any questions that you have if you want. I don't know if I can physically hear them, but maybe I can see them within the chat itself. Let's see.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom.
Art, do we have any questions that you have collected?
Can you hear me yet, Tom? Can't hear me? Okay, Tom can't hear me. So if you have any questions, please put them in the chat because Tom will be able to see them there.
No, I'm so sorry. I can't hear. If you want to type it into the chat, that would be amazing. Or let's wait for the questions. That's also fine.
While we're waiting for some questions, I'm just going to add a couple tidbits here. I have been a CMS user for quite some time on Wix Studio. I know I learned a lot of things. The ability to concatenate data from different fields is super powerful. So thanks so much for sharing that. I know you can't hear me, Tom, but that was super helpful. Also, the ability to schedule posts from the CMS is something new that I learned. Again, a super powerful feature. The hidden visibility versus visible visibility is really powerful too, something that I haven't been utilizing. I've been doing it a different way, but that's definitely a good way to do it. If there's any other questions, please drop them in the chat here and Tom will see them and he'll be happy to answer them. If not, we'll go ahead and get this wrapped up.
I will say I'm not sure if Art said it himself, but if you do have any questions and we're not going to answer them within this chat, you can also reach out to them afterwards and we're going to collect your questions and then we can answer them separately and send the answer to you, even if it's not within this webinar.
Yeah, absolutely. You can definitely reach out.
Thank you for being with me.
Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you.
Thank you so much.